Aloha and welcome. We're seeing people starting to join us in this virtual resource fair on emergency preparedness. So we want to be mindful of everyone's time on this morning. So thank you very much for being on time and more importantly, for joining us today. My name is Sharon Hirota. I work for the County of Hawaii with the Office of Housing, and I will be facilitating today's virtual resource fair. This fair is being was coordinated by members of the social resilience capacity area in regards to the Revitalize Puna and the response to the Kilauea eruptions that occurred in 2018. And although it is being hosted by this group, it's not necessary only for Puna, but it is more importantly to provide information to all communities island-wide around the importance of being prepared prior to a disaster. So again, I'll be facilitating this meeting today. And some of the agenda items that we're going to cover talks about why it's important to prepare. And we're very fortunate this morning to have one of our Kilauea recovery survivors here to share her story and her ohana story as they had to go through the process of evacuating from their home and their community. So we'll have her on. So thank you, Smileys, for joining us. We'll talk about Project 360, ohana preparedness. We'll share information around awareness of systems and community emergency plans. So thank you to our County Civil Defense team for being here today. We'll look at community volunteer opportunities, including the Neighborhood Watch volunteer opportunities and other opportunities that you can get involved with within your community. And closing out with presentation from the Food Basket regarding their programs that are being offered here island-wide and throughout the community. So again, thank you very much for attending. Some of our goals include sharing information that is of value to help to prepare your ohana for emergencies, getting ready to start or know the components of a community emergency planning group in your community, understanding the community's resources and what to expect in times of disaster, and to make you aware of the volunteer opportunities and roles that are available in your community. So not only getting to know your family and friends, but also other members in your community who may need help during times of disaster. So those are our goals. So first of all, just getting right into it, we know her as Smiley. She's always smiling. So thank you again, Smiley Burrows, for joining us. As the slide says, 2018 Kilauea Eruption survivor, a couple hole crater owner. She's also a board member of the Lower Puna Rising and also a co-chair on the social resilience team. So again, thank you for taking time out of your day. Appreciate it. I'll hand it over to you, Smiley. Oh, Smiley, unmute. Smiley, you're muted. Sorry.
All right.
Okay, good.
Good morning. Aloha. Good morning, everybody. So yes, I'm Smiley Burrows. We are here today to share my story and my family's story in the regard to the 2018 Kilauea eruption. It's very interesting looking at the picture of Green Mountain right now, which is what it looks like as of after the eruption. I've been working on farming and community involved since about 1997 when I got here on the island, and had a home in Leilani Estates, but we were preparing to move into a property that we had purchased across from Green Mountain about a year before the eruption. So being a Leilani Estates resident, of course, when the eruption started, we had several days of earthquakes, and we were informed that there was an imminent eruption to be happening and that it would possibly be coming down in our area. So it was unnerving and confusing because, of course, you know, in my mind, being a resident of Puna for so many years with Pu'o'o behaving, and you know, we'd, oh, the lava goes that way, you know, and we'd just always assume that that's where the lava was going to stay, and to have this this experience where all of a sudden the lower east rift zone, that the eruption would be draining down into our area with the earthquakes. It was new to us and unexpected. So our process was, you know, I have 6 kids, 5 boys and 1 girl, and 2 of them had been living out of the home that were grown up and older. So we were preparing for our fruit market, which we did every Friday. And we would host it down at the entrance of Green Mountain. So, you know, we had quite a great communication with the community down there. We were getting ready to prepare for our market when my son Kiki called, and he said, "Mom, there's lava coming out from some cracks down in Lower Leilani," which was a few houses away from a house that he had previously been renting. So initially, my family just really bonded together, and all of my kids showed up with their trucks. And of course, we had a place to evacuate to. So we were very fortunate that that we had a place to go. So as far as preparedness, it was really, you know, the first time that I ever had to deal with that kind of situation. And of course, we evacuated a little bit prior to the actual evacuation. So initially we had left our animals that evening, and I have a large flock of macaws that live in giant aviaries that were at the Leilani property. So in gathering it was kind of my first experience evacuating. So we took what we could, what we thought was necessary, and we went down to the almost ready Kapoho property. And it took us a few days before we were able to get back down into our Leilani property, and the animals were all good. They were hanging in there waiting for us. But at that point, initially, I had to gather up animal carriers, and at that point, we had an opportunity to continue to take things out of that Leilani residence. And so, you know, if I can offer any kind of advice, it's always good to have your paperwork and your important files kind of in one spot, so that if you are needing to up and leave at any time soon, you have your social security cards, your all of your paperwork, your birth certificates, you know, everything should be in one spot, so that you can grab that stuff. Now, of course, in our situation, which was kind of interesting, we had relocated down to Kapoho and had time and the ability to return to the upper Leilani house as the lower Leilani area was erupting, and continue to bring things that we thought were important down to the Kapoho house. After about a month or so, the lava channel flowed down to Kapoho, and we had to once again evacuate from that property. So as I had initially not done that great of a job the first go around. Like, for example, I forgot to pack underwear, which is kind of silly, but the next day I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have any underwear. So, I mean, simple things like necessary hygiene, a change of clothes. If you have a few hours to prepare and you have children, it's always good to have a few extra storage bins around. We had to end up purchasing some more bins, but everybody can take some responsibility and try to pack what they think is necessary as far as some changes of clothes and some blankets. And so we ended up returning and re-evacuating. But at this point, I had animal carriers. I was able to immediately prioritize my animals, not knowing, what would follow. So it's just really important to understand that it might be that one chance that you have to gather your belongings. And so it is good to keep a dog carrier handy, or, leashes and things like that. In my case with birds, they were, they weren't too happy in these little dog carriers, but eventually they were able to go back to normal. And we made our way back to Leilani. We lost a lot of possessions. So in the process of the eruption, I think that priorities and values come up. The priority of your loved ones and your community and life comes first. So possessions can be replaced. Homes can be rebuilt. Unfortunately, we lost 3 homes in the eruption, but to not lose lives was really the main thing. And then to know that my community members were able to get out alive and well. So the aspect of compassion and serving in any way, shape, or form, it can be very healing and rewarding in that time when, for us, it was a long eruption. But to get together with your community is, and to participate in any way that you can, is really, it's part of the healing process, even when the disaster is happening. So in our situation, we had been working with some nonprofit groups and civil defense, and we had hosted an emergency disaster site. So we were able to supply food and water and input. So, I recommend that if you are capable of putting yourself out there and being involved, that is, that's a great opportunity to meet other people and to see that you're not alone in the situation. So yeah, through the experience of the eruption, as well as the hurricane really taught me that we needed to amp up on sustainability. So I've really enjoyed connecting with community farms and working on sustainability. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Smiley, for sharing that personal story. Truly, I do appreciate you taking the time to retell and stress the importance of being prepared. So as we move on, the next slide. Thank you. Just Want to remind you again, this is being hosted by the Social Resilience Capacity Area as part of the Revitalize Puna. It's a place where the county as well as community members come in to support Puna's recovery, readiness, and resilience. We meet weekly every Monday morning at 8:30 via Zoom. And if you're interested in joining our group, contact aloha@revitalizepuna.org. You can also join our email list if you're not available to attend the meetings on a weekly basis. We do record them and we can give you access to the recording. Of the 4 areas that we focus on are resilience hubs, the health and well-being of our community, food systems, as well as emergency and disaster preparedness. So as we move along, I'd like to introduce Barry from Civil Defense, Hawai'i County Civil Defense, who will begin sharing regarding Project 360 on Ohana preparedness. Take it away, Barry. And thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Aloha and mahalo for your kind participation in the virtual resource fair on emergency preparedness. Mahalo also to all those that created this opportunity to share how we can help build community resilience. For 8 years, New York Times bestseller list with over 3 million copies sold was a book written by Malcolm Gladwell called The Tipping Point. In this book, the author presents how little things like a match being struck can have huge consequences. What elements take on a life of their own, can't be stopped, and may no longer be controllable. We can refer to this phenomena as reaching the point of no return, or reaching critical mass, or reaching a tipping point. One such incident took place on October 8th, 1871. At approximately 8 p.m. that evening, Mrs. O'Leary, a resident of Chicago, allegedly was in her barn, had an oil lamp lit, and was going about milking her cow when the oil lamp was knocked over, causing a fire. What ensued was a tipping point of historic proportion. We refer to that as the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. The fire roared uncontrollably for 3 days. When it had finally exhausted itself, over 17,000 structures were destroyed. Over 100,000 people were left without a home, and over 300 had perished. Downtown Chicago laid in ruin. Everything within 3 square miles was turned to ash and rubble. The cost of the Chicago fire is estimated in today's dollars at just under $5 billion. There were multiple elements that culminated that evening. It maybe didn't have to. What if Mrs. O'Leary had set the oil lamp out of reach of her cow? What if she had gone to the barn when it was still daylight, when she would not have had the need of the oil lamp? Or what if Thomas Edison had invented the light bulb 8 years earlier in 1871 instead of 1879? Events that may seemingly appear on the surface unrelated are far related, can have profound impact, and can result in history being reshaped or shifted. During the 1800s, the whaling industry was in full swing. Prior to this time, it was not uncommon to see 10,000 plus whales wintering off the coast of Hawaii. However, the demand for whale blubber to light oil lamps across the US and Europe brought the world's whale population to a tipping point of possible extinction. It was the invention of the light bulb in 1879 that may have been the single most Greenpeace type event in the history of the whaling industry. In that way, that may have saved the whales from extinction, or perhaps could have saved Chicago. Here is a map of the climate zones across the world. Hawai'i Island has 11 of the 13 climate zones represented here on island. We had 12, but we no longer do have the glacier. We're the only county out of more than 3,000 counties in the US to have so many climate zones all happening at the same time. Hawai'i Island holds another title, that of having the largest diversity of hazards. We are the only county out of more than 3,000 counties in the US that has a diversity of hazards. By simply just living here on Hawai'i Island, you've inherited more than your fair share of tipping points due to the weather and hazards that occur, and it might not take much if push came to shove to overwhelm the limited resources we have on island. Have you heard of the butterfly effect? In 1963, the butterfly effect was a doctoral thesis presented by Edward Lorenz that stated if a butterfly could flap its wings on one side of the planet, it could move molecules of air that in turn could move other molecules of air that could eventually create a hurricane on the other side of the planet. His thesis was presented to the New York Academy of Science and laughed at, until professors in the mid-90s proved it was accurate, reliable, and worked every time. What's more, the butterfly effect, also known as chaos theory, was given the status of law, known as the law of sensitive dependence on initial conditions. When we consider the initial conditions in that barn, that October night in 1871, or consider the kinds of weather and hazards that we can face on Hawai'i Island, we start to gain an appreciation of the importance of each of us to make a difference. This is a FEMA hazard benefit cost ratio chart. Looking at this chart, FEMA says for every dollar we spend on mitigation, prevention, protection, and or preparation could save as much as $7 in response and recovery costs. This means for every oil lamp we keep from getting knocked over, we can save a city. That might be a bit more than 7 times savings. Nonetheless, the point here is that the benefit of and cost savings associated with making a difference are going to and doing the best we can. I would like to introduce you to Professor Wangari Mathai. In 2004, she was a Nobel Peace Prize recipient for her work in reforestation and for her work in influencing government policy. One of the stories that she is well known for telling is the story about a hummingbird. I would like all of us to hear that story about this hummingbird. Marcia, could you please run the video? Thank you.
We are constantly being bombarded by problems that we face, and sometimes we can get completely overwhelmed. The story of the hummingbird is about this huge forest being consumed by a fire. All the animals in the forest come out and they are transfixed as they watch the forest burning, and they feel very overwhelmed, very powerless, except this little hummingbird. It says, I'm going to do something about the fire. So it flies to the nearest stream, takes a drop of water, and puts it on the fire and goes up and down, up and down, up and down, as fast as it can. In the meantime, all the other animals, much bigger animals like the elephant with a big trunk, could bring much more water. They are standing there helpless, and they are saying to the hummingbird, what do you think you can do? You're too little. This fire is too big. Your wings are too little. And you're big, so small. You can only bring a small drop of water at a time. But as they continue to discourage it, it turns to them without wasting any time and tells them, I am doing the best I can. And that to me is what all of us should do. We should always feel like a hummingbird. I may feel insignificant, but I certainly don't want to be like the animals watching as the planet goes down the drain. I will be a hummingbird. I will do the best I can.
Thank you. Can you relate? Can you see yourself in that hummingbird? How many times have you felt insignificant or too little, or asked yourself, what can I do? The question is, can we make a difference? Can we? This is the cover of an emergency preparedness booklet. Project 360 is a community resilience project that focuses on 4 specific areas. The area that I present to you at this time is the Ohana Emergency Plan. As we all know, the best plans start at home. This booklet provides a wealth of information on how to develop an emergency plan. It provides information on just about every aspect of emergency planning that your household may want to consider, and it does this in a user-friendly format. A link to the electronic copy of Project 360 Ohana Emergency Plan is available online at the County of Hawaii Civil Defense webpage and is posted on social media on the County of Hawaii Civil Defense Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram sites. I welcome and invite all of you to take this first step in helping to build resilience in your community by developing your Ohana Emergency Plan, and in doing so, make a difference. Mahalo.
Thank you, Barry, for sharing about the 360 and about sharing information on how we can all, prepare ourselves and be part of the solution regardless, just like the hummingbird. So just want to open it up if anybody has any questions thus far as to what we've shared. Just want to do a temperature check, but just kind of reach out and see if anybody would like to ask some questions so far.
Hi, Barry. This is Janera Spicia with the State of Hawaii Workforce Development. I don't have a question, but I actually have a comment. That was fantastic. I was very enthralled by your presentation. It brought me back to college when I was watching presentations by other students. So thank you so much for that. It was very informative.
Well, you're welcome. That's Bill Hansen who did all that.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing and for your positive comment. We really appreciate it. So again, as Barry indicated, Project 360, the Ohana Emergency Plan is available on various websites and can be printed, or if you'd like a copy, just reach out to us. We'll be able to forward you. I also see a raised hand, so I'd like to go ahead, and it's P Max. So do you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I have a comment. I haven't read the plan yet, but my Ohana lost their place in Kapoho. At the time, I was the only person who for weeks said that it was coming through Kapoho. And since then, many people have called me saying that, you know, how much fun they made of me for saying it was coming and them losing their places and all their stuff. I had one Toyota RAV. I got as much out of the personal items, surfboards, things that I could. But I'm in Hawaiian Acres now. And one part of the plan that I kind of would like to see more happen about was no enthusiasm for the Kilauea Armory. Because I have 9 acres up here, I had 40 dogs, cats. I distributed dog food, cat food. I went down and saved horses that I actually let out Papaya Farm Road. And the people in the Kilauea Armory had no showers, no cooking facilities, and a lot of them were the more disabled and elderly people. And that was, I heard that was withdrawn from the Ohana plan. I think it really needs to be considered to keep the Armory. So they moved them from the Kilauea Community Center to the Armory, which I had made a big stink about to try and get that functioning. But we took our resources and our grief and we put it into helping those people. That was like my big instigation. I went every day and fed them and showered them and drove them and everything. And I think that it's really important that KO Armory be part of this shelter process. I think you have Pahoa Park, you're gonna have HPP, you still have nothing for anybody Malka of there. There's no facility. So I lived through it, you know, I've lived through it before when I was a kid. And I just would like to see more emphasis on that. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. And certainly we will make note of your comments and we'll forward it on to the appropriate parties, but thank you very much. Okay, noting no other raised hands, we're gonna move along so we can stay on schedule. Turning it back to Barry, he talked about Project 360 and the importance of being prepared. And now he gets into the technical part of it in regards to emergency response planning. So all yours, Barry.
Thank you, Sharon. According to Fema, emergency preparedness is hierarchical. It begins with the individual, progresses through the community, to the local government, and then to the state government. Everyone is responsible for their individual preparedness. The local government is responsible for promoting individual preparedness and for providing emergency response. The state and federal governments provide additional resources to support the local government. I'm going to talk about the community and the community preparedness. This butterfly is the reason that we prepare. This graph is the basis for chaos theory or sensitivity to initial conditions. In other words, the outcome of the event has a direct correlation to how prepared you are before the event occurs. How do we set the initial conditions? We plan. These are the 6 steps in the planning process as outlined in FEMA's Comprehensive Planning Guide 101. I will briefly take you through this process. Assembling a planning team is probably the most important step in the process. Don't worry if you get it wrong the first time. Planning is an iterative process, so you can refine your plan as you identify gaps and deficiencies in that plan. Your team does need someone with knowledge of the community and community resources, a representative from other organizations that operate in your community, and if possible, somebody with knowledge of the local geography and weather conditions. If requested, the Hawai'i County Civil Defense Agency will represent the County of Hawaii on the planning team. To prepare, you need to know why you are preparing. Your plan should only address the risk associated with your community. Understanding the threat, how vulnerable you are to the threat, and the consequences when that threat does impact your community will focus the plan and make it specific to your community. You must also understand the resources you have available to mitigate or address the risk when they do impact your community. This is an example of hazards that may impact your community. The probability ranges from certain, 99% chance of happening, to extremely rare, less than 1% chance of happening. A likely probability is between 50 and 99% chance of happening. The magnitude is a measure of the potential impact of the hazard in terms of the effect on the community. Severity measures the consequences of the potential impact to the lives and property. Severity ranges between insignificant and catastrophic. Warning is how much notice you will have prior to the impact. This is important in your planning process. Location is the impact. Is the impact localized within your community, or is it going to impact the entire community? Size also looks at the impact in terms of how many people will be affected. Speed of onset is critical to your preparations once you've been warned of the impending impact. if there is a warning period. The duration is how long the hazard may impact your community. It can be seconds to months. Determining goals. Well, a goal is a future or desired result. An example is we want to be able to account for all community residents after a disaster. An objective is a specific task that needs to be done to achieve that goal. An example is every family will prepare an emergency plan that specifies how the family will account for family members. And another objective for this goal is the community will establish a system for reporting family status to the incident commander. Identifying the tasks that will need to be done to meet the goals and objectives. Determine the resources required to accomplish the task and identify the resources within the community and assign responsibilities to those resources. That's all part of developing the plan. Then you review your plan. What are you reviewing it for? Feasibility. Can we do it? And for reasonableness. Does this plan address the hazards? And then who approves this plan? If you have a community association, the community association board should probably approve your emergency plan. Once the plan is approved, the community needs to be educated on the plan and what are their requirements to meet those objectives established in the plan. Identified tasks or actions need to be practiced on a regular basis to ensure that the plan is executable when needed. As issues or gaps within the plan are identified during an exercise or implementing the plan, you can revise the plan to address those issues. Thank you for your time. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Barry, for sharing the technical aspects of getting a community prepared. I just want to open it up before we move on for anyone who may have questions or comments regarding what was shared by Barry in regards to systems and community emergency plans. You know, in the previous workshop, what was shared was, you know, it's very technical. How do we get started? Where do we start? And I just want to share with you that we are here to support, and there will certainly be some follow-up sessions as we dive deeper into the details and working with communities who are interested. I also see some questions and comments. Barry, there's a question regarding what is the date of that threat chart? Fire seems to be a bigger, fire seems to be a bigger risk than what was noted.
Okay, that threat chart's just a generic chart I threw away as examples of threats. And if you look at our hazard mitigation plan, the multi-hazard mitigation plan the county has, wildfire is it's in the top 3 of hazards that need to be addressed in this county.
Thanks, Barry. And I also see questions or comments regarding the presentation. I would tell you as a follow-up to today's presentation, we will be sharing copies of the presentation, including a follow-up, also a video that we weren't able to incorporate here, and also a list of resources, community resources that are also available. So you'll get that as a follow-up. So thank you. Thanks, Zoe, for making that comment. There's a question, Barry, for you regarding task to report status. Is there a system already used?
Not really. In the community, based on the personality of the community, how the community functions, that's what we look at when we develop the plan. What is going to work in that particular community? And I'll give you an example of HPP. They have a organization that supports their elderly population. And so they're using that organization in their plan to gain accountability during an emergency in Hawaiian Paradise Park.
Okay, so what I hear is every community is different, as we know, and depending upon the focus of that community, the plan will be developed by the community to address various potential disasters.
Yes.
Summarizing? Okay, very good. Okay, and we'll leave the opportunity. Please continue to put your questions in the chat box, and we'll our support group will go ahead and address it, or I will bring it up as we move forward. But I want to keep us on task and introduce you to Patty Pinto, who wears several hats here for us here today. She's employed by the county, but is also one of our key leaders in our CERT program here on Hawaii Island, which is Community Emergency Response Team. So Patty, I'll turn it over to you.
Aloha. I'm going to talk about volunteer opportunities. Our professional responders are significantly less than 1% of our island's population. It makes total sense that being prepared for an emergency helps to reduce the number of people who need assistance. And remember, we are all the first responders for our own households and communities. We can increase the number of responders who are trained and able to respond to people in need during a disaster by becoming volunteers ourselves. In Hawai'i County, the Community Emergency Response Team, the CERT program, is a key part of our emergency response capacity. CERTs across the island are prepared to activate as needed for a variety of responsibilities. Most common is situation reporting of weather, flood, and tidal conditions, which we can do right from our homes. Most common is situation reporting. CERTs can activate to assist the county in the distribution of emergency supplies and notifications of emergencies. Post-disaster damage assessment teams all include CERT personnel. Another thing that happens when we have a big storm is that our communications lines go down. Our amateur radio operators are always ready to stand up their capabilities and be the communications link between our isolated communities and civil defense. But it's not just serving our communities. We have had unique and amazing experiences working behind the lines in disasters, up close and personal with the Kilauea Eruption, helping to document damage after a flood, or being part of a large disaster drill at the airport. Being trained and equipped to help our communities in a disaster is a great benefit. All of our communities are more secure when we have members who are part of a CERT team, Neighborhood Watch, or food distribution program. Communities that have food distribution programs are more cohesive and better able to respond when a disaster occurs. And why is this? Because we know our neighbors better. During the past 2 years of COVID, the CERT training program has been on hiatus, and we are gearing up to resume training later this spring. The CERT training course has also evolved during the COVID experience with both virtual and hands-on components. And if you'd like to be notified when we are taking registrations for training, just send us an email to the address on the resource slide, and we're going to send this out to you. We're also sending a copy of the slide to you. And there's contact information for all of the mentioned volunteer organizations. Communities that have neighborhood watch programs are safer communities. Neighborhood watch programs are a great partner in the event of a disaster. During the Kilauea eruption, the Leilani Neighborhood Watch team was out patrolling in their mandatory evacuation area daily, keeping an eye on the homes that owners had been forced to leave. Neighborhood Watch members are also a part of the county.
Patty, you muted yourself.
Patty.
When a community has a food distribution program, they are already prepared with volunteers to activate and give assistance to their community in the event of a disaster. There is an established venue with volunteers who have the knowledge and experience to run a disaster relief food distribution program. When we volunteer in a food distribution program, we get to know our neighbors. We know who may have special needs or require a home check-in. Communities with food distribution programs are more resilient. Hawaii County has a thriving and strong network of amateur radio operators. There's an emergency response network, ARES, the Amateur Radio Emergency Service, and each CERT team has a cadre of radio operators to keep communications open and connect during an emergency. Also, neighborhood watch teams do this. Doug Wilson, seeing the need, has developed a virtual course to enable absolute beginners to be prepared to take their FCC Amateur Radio Technician's exam. Amateur radio operators must be licensed in order to use their designated radio bands. Doug's email address is here on the resource slide, and you can drop him an email if you're interested in becoming an amateur radio operator. Hawaii State Department of Health manages the Medical Reserve Corps, medical professionals, nurses, doctors, all kinds, who volunteer to assist in emergencies, medical programs, and during the COVID testing and vaccination programs. Kokua Harvest is a group of people who arrange to harvest fruit and produce that would otherwise not be picked from homeowners and small farmers. The produce they harvest becomes part of our island's food distribution supply. FEMA's website, ready.gov, is an exhaustive resource for emergency preparedness information and resources, and go check it out. And if you have not already, it is so easy to sign up for Hawai'i County Civil Defense emergency alerts on your phone and computer. The link is on the resource slide. And again, I call your attention to the Project 360 Ohana Emergency Plan. You can pick up a copy at Hawaii County Research and Development Office, the Pahoa Lava Zone Museum, Leilani Community Association, and we'll be attaching a electronic copy to the emails that we send out to you after this presentation. Anybody have questions?
Thank you, Patty, for sharing the list of resources that is available to anyone interested in becoming part of the response, or at least getting ready to or prepared for emergency preparedness. So thank you again. So opening it up, if anyone here have questions or comments, want to make sure, yeah. And leading up to it and diving deeper, next speaker is Greg Armstrong. He is with the Leilani Community Association Neighborhood Watch, hppwatch.org, as well as a co-chair of the social RCA. So thank you, Greg, for joining us this morning and for giving us information regarding the Neighborhood Watch programs and your participation and connectivity to that at the Leilani estates. So take it away, Greg.
Thanks, Sharon. Okay, she mentioned I'm the president of the Leilani Neighborhood Watch and also co-chair of this group. We partner with our community police officers and neighbors to find ways to reduce and prevent crimes. We observe and report suspicious activity to the police, a non-emergency number 935-3311, or in case of emergencies, 911 if there's crime in progress or life-threatening situation. We also contact our neighbors to alert them of suspicious or dangerous situations on our blocks. Neighborhood Watch members meet to educate, train, form block watches, build communication networks, and share what we do if we see suspicious activity, crimes, emergencies, or disasters. And as Patty mentioned, during the 2018 eruption, we were called in to assist civil defense with the problems in Leilani estates. We were escorting people into their properties, into the no-go zones, and keeping an eye, making sure they were safe. If the SO2 levels went up, we had to get them out quick. So it was a challenge, but we made it through and helped a lot of people. Neighborhood Watch is the most effective and least costly way to prevent crimes, reduce fear, and work together to find solutions to improve the safety, security, and quality of life for our residents. Neighborhood Watch is not just about crime. We also assist with public safety issues and social services to provide basic needs for our most vulnerable residents. We've worked closely with Vibrant Hawaii and Ashley Kirkowitz with food distribution during the COVID mess. So they've got our number, they know who to call when they need help, and nearly all the Neighborhood Watch through Puna are connected with that. Judy Howell, she's the president of HPP's Neighborhood Watch, and she's also the coordinator for the Puna Watches. And currently we have 23 communities in the Neighborhood Watch program throughout Puna, and would like to get as many more as we can. Our goal is to actively participate in our community to build stronger bonds and a safer place to live. Call your association's office to find out if there's a Neighborhood Watch and attend their meetings. If there isn't a Neighborhood Watch, please call the community policing officer in your district. An example for Puna, the number to call 965-2716. You can also email Judy for information. Her email is nwhpppjudi@gmail.com. And she would be able to help you and guide you to the right place. We'd like to encourage everyone to join, be informed, be aware, be prepared, and be part of the solution to improve your neighborhood. Learn how to secure your home, property, and vehicles. Find out who to call, procedures, resources, laws, and build partnerships with police, nonprofits, county, state, and federal legislators and agencies. Once you've established a Neighborhood Watch, we can provide training packets and resources to help you along the journey. It doesn't take a lot of time or money to make a big difference on your street and in your neighborhood. The Neighborhood Watches are not all the same. Some of them have fairly large memberships. Ours is an example, we have over 40 members. And of those 40, we have about 15 that are on patrol during the week and evenings. Some Neighborhood Watches don't have enough people or can't patrol, but there's all different ways that Neighborhood Watch can help to keep the neighborhoods safer. Okay, and that's it. If anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Greg, for sharing, and also for sharing the contact information for Judy, who can connect them, help them set up their programs or connect them to appropriate resources. So I appreciate that. I'd like to open up some space if anybody has questions for Greg or in regards to Neighborhood Watch programs and volunteer opportunities. I'm just scrolling through and just making sure. So again, as we shared earlier, this information that is being shared with you today will be sent out as a follow-up email to all those that registered today for this virtual workshop. So, okay, seeing none for now, I will, like I said, we're opening up the chat. Zoe, thank you very much for putting Judy's email in the chat, so appreciate that. Okay, so we're staying on track. So appreciate everyone's continuing to stay with us. We're just about wrapping up. I'd like to introduce you to Sarah Hamakawa from the Food Basket, who will be sharing about the work that they're doing in our community throughout the year, not only in times of disaster, but certainly throughout the years, providing access to food to those who are in need. So, Sarah?
Thank you, Sharon. Hello, everybody. I am the operations manager for the east side of for the food basket. I just want to kind of do like a little introduction to for our programs. Like, not a lot of people know what it is that we do over here. Okay, so what a lot of people are familiar with, we work with a lot of partner agencies throughout the community. We are more of like a food hub, and our partner agencies are the ones that do the direct distribution to the community, our soup kitchens, our food pantries. Those are the people that you see out in the public. We also do what we call Kupuna Pantry, which is a senior program. It services 1,081 people throughout the island. Those seniors would have to make under $1,600 a month, and they would have to be over 60. We also have our Kiki backpack program, where we provide food for Kiki. We partner with schools throughout the island to help us with the distribution, just to get food to children, usually before like long school breaks or long weekends, just to make sure that they have a little bit of extra food to get them through that period where they're not going to be in school. We also do SNAP outreach, where we help people complete their SNAP applications, which can be very confusing. We can't actually look up to see if they've qualified, but we can definitely help them, gather all their paperwork together and make sure that everything gets turned in properly. We also have our community supported agriculture program, which is called The Box, where we buy food from local farmers on the island and we resell it at cost to our customers. And these customers are island wide. We do a lot of deliveries to communities throughout the island with a big focus on food deserts, places that don't have a lot of stores, especially like down in the south side, Kauai side. And the box also partners with the Bucks, which allows us to sell this produce to people. Those who have SNAP EBT, we can sell it with the Bucks so they can get half off. We also partner with various retailers such as KTA so that they can also get that same discount. We also have Kokua Harvest, where we are able to partner with people who say they have like trees of tangerines in their backyard, and their tangerines are just falling off the tree. We can actually get volunteers over there to harvest tangerines and distribute them to our partners who are doing distribution out in the community so that the tangerines don't get wasted. And we also do food drives, such as our annual food drive. I don't know if anybody's seen us at KTA a couple of weeks ago, but that's usually where people see us out in the public as well. And just a little tips on how to be able to find food in our communities. We recently updated our website to make it more user-friendly and easier for people to find food. If you go to our website, www.hawai'ifoodbasket.org, we have a Find Food Now button. And one of the ways that you can look it up is we have like a GPS map. You can type in your zip code. It'll bring up a map and it'll show you various locations of the food pantries. And the list on the left side will show you when they're open. Another way to view is we have a list on the bottom where you can see based on the days of the week, you can see which pantries are open. And then just to keep in mind, not every pantry is open every Monday or every Tuesday. There's usually a little note there that says, like the third Monday or the fourth Tuesday or the last Wednesday. And then you just have to go to your calendar just to verify what day is actually the third Monday or fourth Tuesday, etc. And then the third way that you can find our pantry schedule. So this is like the more classic look that people are used to seeing. This is what we pass out at our front window. This is the PDF version that you can download and you can print it out. And yeah, that's pretty much what people are more used to seeing. And everything over here on our website is updated pretty frequently. Anytime that we get updates from our pantries, we immediately open up our pantry schedule, we update everything. So don't hold on to the PDF version forever. I would, check in every so often and make sure that what you have is the updated copy. Okay, so food basket depends a lot on volunteers for most of our direct distribution to the community. Right now, we don't have any way of getting the agency applications online on our website. It should be something that we should be updating relatively soon. So if you want to become a partner agency, if you have a group of people that you guys want to get together and do distribution in the community, the best thing that you can do is to just give us a call and ask us questions. We can determine if there's a need in the community. We can let you know if there are other distributions already happening in your community, what days of the month that they're happening, just to make sure that there's not like duplicated effort. Maybe if you notice that somebody has a distribution at the end of the month, maybe you could do it in the middle of the month, just to make sure that everything kind of gets served evenly. Partner agencies would have to have either a 501c3 tax exempt status, or you can also go under the umbrella of somebody that has one. So if you're like in good standings with like a church or something, they can write a letter stating that you're in good standing with them and they allow you to use their 501c3 to shop at the food basket. And then we can establish you as a partner that way. You would have to turn in monthly paperwork, which is basically the sign-in sheets that people would come in, they'd have to fill out every time they come and say how many people are in their family. And then at the end of the month, you just have to add up all the people that came to your pantry. You'd also have to do food safety training every 3 years, as well as completing civil rights training annually. We usually do the annual training at our annual meetings, but due to COVID, we had to stop doing annual meetings in person. Yeah, the easiest way to sign up is you can give me a call. I can talk you through everything. We can get you the agency application packets. I can either email it or mail it to you. You can come in, we can talk in person if you want. And then as soon as everything gets submitted, we can establish shopping days and times. You have to kind of schedule it with us and you guys can come in and shop. Okay, and then if anybody is interested in volunteering, you can also give us a call, kind of let us know, what it is that you're looking to do. We don't always have volunteer opportunities here. We usually do like packing a couple of times a month. Sometimes we need help in the front distributing food. But we also recommend if you want to help out in your community, you can actually, they're going to be providing you with pantry schedules after this presentation. And you can actually look at that to see what pantries and soup kitchens there are in your community, and you can call them and just let them know that you're interested in helping. And I'm sure all help is very much appreciated. Everybody, they're all on volunteer basis. They're all always in need of help. So I guess that's it. If anybody has any questions for me.
Thank you, Sarah, for joining us today and sharing about the great work that the Food Basket does in providing, food and meals to our vulnerable community members. Appreciate that. Just as indicated, anybody have any questions or comments for Sarah and the Food Basket?
Hi, Sarah. Thank you for the wonderful service that you do provide to our island community. This is Janera Spicio with the State Department of Labor Workforce Development. And I wanted to know, for your Kupuna program, do you offer transportation or delivery service? I should restate, delivery service for your food baskets for the Kupuna, as a lot of them do have transportation concerns.
So we try to keep most of our delivery service to a minimum. Like, we really try to screen them, and we see if they have any transportation that's available to them, because we also allow them to have somebody come and pick up for them. Like, they themselves doesn't really need to be there to do for the pickup. They can send like their nephew or their kids or anybody can pretty much pick up for them. So, as long as they have some kind of resources, but there are some seniors who, they live alone, they don't really have family here, so we do definitely make exceptions for people, and we try to get them the food if necessary. And if anything, we also try to get them connected to any kind of social services out there that may offer transportation as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Just looking for raised hands or anyone, just unmute yourself and you can go ahead and ask your question. I do want to direct you to the Food Basket's new website, how to find food. We tested it out, put in zip codes, and it was very easy to use. As most of us know, once you print paper, sometimes it goes outdated. And especially if we're working in connecting our community members or our neighbors to appropriate resources, it's good if we have access to real-time online data. So thank you to Food Basket for updating their website and making it very easy for people to find food opportunities. So, and again, reach out to the Food Basket if you're interested. If your community is interested in, or your organization within your community is interested in developing a food distribution program. So appreciate it. So just doing one more last sweep to see if anyone has any questions. So thank you again for attending and for staying with us. We are ending on time, but before we do, I just want to throw it out there. I hope that this information, you found this presentation of value to you, and is it also interested to see if there is anything else or any other topic you'd like us to cover or you'd like to know more about. Please drop it in the chat or just open it up. We also invite you to our next activation meeting coming up on April 11th. This one will be in person at Sure Foundation Puna. And you can stay connected to get updates. You can join our social RCA on Mondays, or even just join our email group and be part of the work that we do in the delivery of resources and services. So I'll just do one more scan just to make sure we're good. But remember, if you have anything where you think we missed something, let us know. We're open. This is our first virtual workshop that we're hosting. We have one more on the same topic coming up on March 22nd. And then we're going to regroup and be sure that we follow up and discuss next steps in terms of, getting to more details about developing, more concrete community response plans, or talking more in detail about the Ohana 360. We're looking for your input. We want to make sure it's of value to everyone. So again, mahalo And I just want to leave you with one thing. We're going to send you a clip on the butterfly effect. I think it was brought up more than once in the presentations. But one thing that I took away from it is that in closing, that everything you do and we do, every move we make within our own environment, every action that you take matters to all of us. And it takes all of us working collaboratively and in partnership within our communities will help us continue to be resilient as we move forward. So appreciate it. Mahalo, thank you. So yes, and thank you for all of your comments, and we appreciate all of you. And we have one more session, so if you can help us spread you found this of value, please help us spread the word. We really truly do appreciate it. So any last comments by any of our facilitators or presenters today? Just want to leave it there before we close out for today. Okay, we're good? Very good. So again, thank you. Have a great Tuesday, and hope to see you soon. If not, thank you very much for attending. Appreciate all of you. Mahalo.